This is lecture number 2 for Unit 1, and we're going to talk about the freedom of religion. The United States has a long history of the freedom of religion. It comes from the First Amendment that allows for separation of church and state and for the freedom of religion. So today we're going to talk about a little bit about the history of where that comes from. So when we look back in England, we realize that that's where most of our colonists came from. And in England, there is a Church of England forming, and other religions are being persecuted against. So you have Catholics and Puritans both being persecuted against. So they need to find a place where they can go to practice their religion safely. So they choose the colonies. There's 3 colonies here that are created with the idea of freedom of religion in mind. So first is Rhode Island, and it was created to allow for the separation of church and state, and it was going to be open to all religions. Maryland was going to be a safe haven for Catholics, and you can remember that because Mary was a key figure in the Catholic religion, so Maryland safe for Catholics. And then Pennsylvania was created by William Penn, and he founded it as a Quaker colony. So they were going to these colonies with religious freedom in mind. Along with religious freedom and the idea that a religious state can be formed, we have religious intolerance. So a lot of these people left religious intolerance in England and they moved to the colonies and create religious intolerance in their own. Nowhere is this more evident than in Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, it was only open to Puritans, no other faiths but that. We know of the Salem witch trials where we openly tried and executed innocent women of witchcraft. So these are areas where you're leaving something bad and then you creating something bad as well. And they were so crazed by ridding all of Massachusetts of anything but Puritans, they chase out Roger Williams, who actually ends up founding Rhode Island and creates the idea of freedom of religion because he doesn't want this to happen again. About 100 years later, we have something called the Great Awakening. So we've had all these issues, and as these really extreme religious events are happening, we start to morph towards science and an idea called the Enlightenment, where people are starting to think about things with science rather than with religion. So religion kind of falls away. 100 years later, we have the Great Awakening, which is trying to bring these religious values back. And we're not trying to bring them back in the same way that they were, but try to reform religion and make it accessible for everyone. So it's in the 18th century that saw a revival in religion in colonial America and caused an increase in evangelism and the numbers of new Christian denominations. So we have other forms of Christianity rising out of this. The founders meaning the founding fathers in the 18th century were religious, and their faith influenced their choices when making the nation. So you see a lot of the ideas of God and the Bible and stuff in the founding fathers' documents and their thoughts and creation of our country. So we know that they are very religious, and they saw the dangers of the past. So they also thought about that when creating the Constitution. That's why we have the First Amendment with freedom of religion, because we don't want the same things to happen to our future as what happened to them in the past. All right, that's going to be it for lecture number 2.